Howdy, folks. It's your long-lost buddy, PipeCat. Larry, if you will. And even if you don't, it's still Larry. I wanted to sort of update you. It's been a while since I've been on. Got me a carpet full of Old Joe Krantz going on. Nice burley blend. Many of you are familiar with. What I like about Old Joe Krantz is it's, and this is the standard blend. This isn't one of the red, white, and blue. Just good old Joe Krantz. What I like about it is that when you shut off the fan in the background, it sounds much better. Hang on. There. Doesn't Old Joe Krantz sound much better without the fan on? I know you guys haven't heard from me in a while, so I figured I'd do a quick little update this Sunday just before Halloween 2018. Well, I had intentions of making a lot of videos since the last one I made, but nature and the elements and biology have conspired against me. About a month ago, maybe 5 weeks ago, I started feeling really sick, and I thought I was coming down with a bad cold, and I probably was, but a week went by of feeling terrible, and more terrible every single day, and I can now tell you the clear difference between a cold and the flu. Many people call in sick to work and they have a bad cold and they tell their boss, I got the flu. Some of you may already know this, but there is a world of difference between the cold and the flu. I started out with the runny nose and the sore throat and the aches and the, not being able to sleep at night because my nasal passages were burning and all the stuff that comes with a bad cold. And that hung on tenaciously and just got worse and worse and worse until about 1 week into it, when the cold symptoms weren't beginning to subside. Then the real problem started, and that is the flu attacks your lungs. The flu keeps you from breathing right. Now, if you can't breathe because your nose is stuffed, that's one thing. And if you have trouble breathing because your trachea is all flamed up, that's another thing. And that's really aggravating. But when your lungs tell you we're not getting enough air, panic mode kicks in. So, about maybe 8 or 9 days into feeling terribly sick, that was the first time I called in to work, because I work from home, so I could kind of fight through it. I sounded awful on the phones, but I went to a local clinic here in Massachusetts, and it's one of these minute clinics in the back of a drugstore, basically. And some lady nurse practitioner sitting in one lonely little back room of the drugstore brings you in, and she taps your head and she feels over here and she takes your vitals, and about a 1-minute assessment later she says, yeah, maybe take some decongestants and get a lot of fluids and rest and that kind of thing. And I said, I don't think you're understanding what I'm telling you. And she says, no, you just got a really bad cold, it's something viral, and just let it run its course and you'll be fine. I said, I've been letting it run its course for about a week and a half, lady, and I feel like I'm going to die. Okay, I can't, I'm dizzy for lack of air. I feel like I'm on top of a mountain somewhere. And she says, well, if it gets any worse, then come back. I'm like, okay. So I left and I went and I called my doctor's office, and then their nurse on the phone said to me, well, why aren't you in the hospital? Why aren't you being seen? I said, well, I went to one of those clinics She's like, well, here, let me give you a different clinic to go to. And she told me to go to one of the clinics that's in their network, actually. It's a dedicated, what they call a ready-med clinic. Oh no. Got to keep the smoke going in. Don't feel healthy without the smoke going in. This is called being stupid. But I actually feel kind of okay now. That's why I'm telling you the story. Do a quick little moisture removal here of my old Joe. See that yuck on the end of that nice clean pipe cleaner? And now it's all moist and sticky and gross. A little touch of Satan there. Get it lit again. Much better. So I go to the ready-med clinic, and their nurse practitioner came out. Young girl. I'm going to guess she couldn't be more than 30, early 30s. And, pretty thing. And she takes a good look, and as opposed to the lady at the first clinic who just basically kind of poked around, this one got up close to me, and she put the stethoscope all over me, and she sits back and looks at me. She goes, how are you upright right now? I said, with great effort. She says, well, your pulse is elevated, although, your blood pressure is good and all these other things. Most of the things that affect fat people generally don't affect me. Don't ask me why. I've been lucky so far. She says, well, she goes, your pulse is high enough to make me think that if you're not running a marathon, just before you get here, then you probably are having some trouble with oxygen absorption. And she put the little thingy on my finger to read the oxygen. And she's like, yeah, that's not bad, but it could be better. When that starts desaturating, then yeah, you probably have a respiratory problem going on here. And she said to me, how long ago did this start? And I told her the whole story. And then she says, well, you probably had the flu, and you might be coming off the end of it right now, but it's left some pretty serious damage. Let's get some x-rays and see. Took pictures. They had an x-ray machine at this site. Sent me in the other room, took some pictures of my chest. And I guess they have a doctor there who does sort of an initial read, and he looked at it and said, looks a little dark. I'm going to send this over to radiology and have them take a look at it at the main hospital and see if there's anything further. So that night I get a phone call, and they said, yeah, you've got pneumonia. And you had the flu, and the flu probably brought on viral bronchitis because your immune system was dropped so far by the flu. Bronchitis then kicked in. You can see the little nodules, And then they said in your lower left lung, you've got pneumonia. It's really pretty dark down there. So they put me on an antibiotic, and all the joy that comes with a strong antibiotic, for the next few days, you feel like you're getting hit by a hammer. So then the antibiotics seemed to get that kind of under control. I felt like I could breathe a little bit better after about 2 days on it. But the at the age of 53, if your lungs have been attacked by something, you're not a kid anymore. It's going to take a little time to so that they're functioning up to par again. Oh, that I had to do. So the last thing that I was in the mood for was making a funny video, and there were many things I wasn't in the mood for, and in fact I ended up missing an entire week of work, which to me is just unheard of. I've never taken more than 2 days off work from being sick in my life. So I took a whole week because I had no voice, and I couldn't leave the house. I just didn't want to. I was afraid to. I didn't want anyone to visit me because who knows if flu virus hangs around in your apartment, especially when you're housebound like I am most of the time. So it was a long, lonely 5 weeks since I first got sick. And in that time, other than missing work and being in bed most of the time, Um, Other things got past me. The weather was changing here in New England, and the nastier part of fall was kicking in. And as many of you may already know, I have a tobacco garden out on my porch, my Porch Plantation Project. And the last thing that I felt able to do was go out there and do gardening. Doesn't seem like a lot of work, but it is. With my other problem of not being able to stand, for very long or bend over easily, it is a lot of work. And so all I really could muster up the strength to do was keep the plants watered, basically, and remove any dead stuff that was in the way of the sunlight and things like that. Well, in the interim, you might say I kind of missed my harvesting opportunity because I just couldn't do it. And a couple of my plants went to flower and then seed, and in the autumn around here, that's really when the bees come around for some reason. A lot of plants go to seed late in summer, and that's, the bees are around because the flowers are out. So a few of my plants that I had meant to bag the flowers on or to remove flowers from, I didn't get to do, and so I'm sure that a few of my plants are all crossed up, so the seeds will be useless again. Some of them did get bagged though, and those seeds will be useful. And luckily I have a lot of those, so at least I got seed. Now the plants themselves are in pretty rough shape because about a week ago a cold snap moved in that basically decimated the plants. I mean, there was a couple of overnight freezes, and the next day the plants were wilting and water didn't matter to them anymore. The lush green leaves were beginning to droop down and had that sort of transparent look about them, which is what happens when you freeze a leaf, I'm sure there's not a whole hell of a lot of winter weather down in, Mississippi and Kentucky. I mean, I'm sure there is some. But with the limited sunlight that my plants get out on my porch, because they're walled in on 3 sides and it's a narrow porch, they didn't grow. My garden didn't finish like I had hoped that it would. And I'm going to try and harvest what I can out of them. I won't get a whole lot of leaf. I probably won't get enough leaf to really go through the trouble of building, treatment for. Some of it, like the Shirazi, which is a Turkish, I can sort of air dry. Or maybe we'll get some out of the Shirazi. The other stuff that I was hoping for, Harrow Velvet, Golden Burley, Virginia Bright Leaf, those didn't do as well. So I guess you could say that it's kind of a write-off. But I learned a few things in this last gardening project. And this is my second year attempting to grow tobacco, and I definitely did a better job the second time around than I did the first time around, but I think the third time's going to be the charm. And I think rather than trying to grow like I did here, approximately 40 plants on a small porch, I'm going to take the 4 breeds that I have good seed for, and in the coming season, next year, I'm going to narrow it down to probably about maybe 16 plants, 4 of each, in large pots, because I have seen firsthand now, without being a botanical person or a gardener or anything like that. This is strictly layman bumbling around and looking at a few videos to see what to do. I have found for sure that the size of the pot absolutely dictates the size of the plant. My plants that I had hoped would reach 5 or possibly 6 feet in height didn't really make it over 4. Most of them are right around 3.5 feet tall, and a couple of them made it to about 4 feet, like Shirazi, which grows very tall. Others tried. They really tried hard. But with the limited light on that porch and the number of plants and the size of their pots, they didn't get as big as I wanted them to get. So what I'm left with is possibly some leaf, definitely some good usable seed for next year, and the knowledge that I'm going to plant fewer plants in larger pots with a mixture of peat and soil, that they seem to be happiest in. And since I'm going to grow them that way, I may even start them in larger pots rather than little tiny cups. I had to use cups because I had 40 plants, at least 40. I mean, I had planned on more than that. But of those, they start out wonderfully. They grow so well. They start so well. But the finish this year is disappointing, but very revealing. So the next batch is going to be fewer plants, bigger pots, with better access to the sunlight. I have a few ideas about that as well. I might end up coating the sides of my porch, which aren't that big. I may end up coating the two side walls with something reflective, or at least white, in order to focus more sunlight, because the sun is usually at a slant coming in most of the day. And if I can find something, if I can buy some kind of material large enough to cover those two walls and just secure it in place, with just brute pressure, because I could probably wedge things up underneath the shingles to get them to hang without having to tape them, or I don't want to nail things into the walls. Then I think I should have a better sort of a terrarium effect with reflected light. This video is getting kind of long now, so anyway, that's mostly what I wanted to talk about today, just where I've been and how my plants are doing. I don't want to call this an official Porch Plantation Project video, because really I was saving that last one for the big success, so again, we'll chalk it up to a really rich learning experience for me. I will probably have a few more reviews coming up. There are quite a number of blends that I've tried for the first time, like right up until I got sick, that I wanted to talk about, but doing tobacco reviews is all well and good and fun and stuff like that, but I find that so many people are doing it, and there's so much conflict between people's opinions of blends. And even my own videos, when I watched them, many of the blends that I first reviewed that I thought, I could take or leave, after a while of putting them away and then picking them up again after a while and trying them again, you tend to look at them a little bit differently. And so many of them, such as Old Joe Krantz, which wasn't a part of my regular rotation, kind of snuck in there. There are others, similar. Concerto from the Hearth and Home Marquee series was one that I wasn't all that fired up on, but it's a nice, mild, all-day smoke. Joe Krantz is a little bit stronger, but still something of an all-day smoke. And there are others that I will mention in upcoming videos. I'll probably put more than one in one video, just because I don't want to eat up my time on on reviewing a lot of products that are sort of so-so and people aren't clamoring for. So anyway, thank you for listening, and I will be back on the airwaves probably sooner than later, now that I'm feeling better, and yeah, that's about it. So take care of yourselves, and hang in there. Happy puffing. I'll talk to you soon.